She was one of the so-called gatekeepers to President Trump before stepping down last year. Now, Madeleine Westerhout is releasing a new memoir about what really happened with reporters right before her departure. It's called Off the Record. Joining me now is the author herself and former director of the Oval Office operations, Madeleine Westerhout. Madeleine, thank you. I've known you a long time. I was so sad to see what happened, and we'll get to some of the other parts of the book in a second. But take us through that night, that important night that you were with reporters, you were having cocktails, and you thought it was off the record. They thought it was on the record. Tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you. It was about a year ago now. I had a rare day off and was enjoying some drinks by the pool and accepted an invitation to an off-the-record dinner, what was supposed to be an off-the-record dinner, and said some things that I didn't mean and that I shouldn't have said. And that mistake and lapse of judgment cost me my job. And now I am telling the story.
Well, and how did the mix-up happen, Madeleine? It's either on the record or off the record. How did that mix-up happen?
Yeah, so that's something that I talk about in my book, and I ask, a lot of questions of how did the information that I said at that off the record get back to the president and ultimately make national headlines. And I don't think that this story was in the best interest of really anybody. I'm not sure who gained anything from this story being released, but I've decided it's not really worth my time anymore to kind of question how that information was shared. But I do ask kind of those questions and talk about those theories in my book, so the reader can kind of go through that with me.
Sure, and I've known you a long time, and the president adored you. He really trusted you. I mean, you used to sit right outside the Oval Office. I used to say hi to you on the way in. I mean, there was a bond there. There were some things that were said about some of the children, the Trump children, that leaked or got back to the president somehow. How did the president react to that with you when you had to step down? What was that like?
Yeah, I think the president was really disappointed, and that was so tough. I called him the day after I resigned and apologized to him, and he wasn't mad, he wasn't angry, but I could definitely hear the disappointment in his voice. And I think, honestly, because of the relationship that I had with him, that was even more difficult than him being angry. But he accepted my apology right away and said he forgave me, and that's the gracious man that I know.
Yeah, and I only have about a minute or so, Madeleine, and I will tell you this. So the rest of the book goes into detail about your time in the White House, sitting literally outside the Oval Office. Yeah. You talk about bartenders being able to write books. For someone to sit outside the Oval Office, you write a book. Do you open up on some of those stories in the book?
Yes, absolutely. I talk a lot in the book about the man that I got to know, the man that the mainstream media won't talk about, and that is a kind and generous man who is a really great leader and a good boss. So I hope the American people can kind of see a different side to President Trump when they read my book.
And do you name names? Do you tell us who's coming in and out of the Oval Office at times?
I worked for a businessman for a very long time, so I'm not going to give too much away before people buy my book. But I think there are some juicy tidbits in there.
Very quickly, have you had any conversation with POTUS since then?
I have. I told him about the book when the press release first went out, and I spoke to him last week, and he was very excited about the book. And so I just appreciate his support so very much.
The book is called Off the Record, and it's Madeleine Westerhout, and she was one of the gatekeepers sitting just outside the Oval Office. Madeleine, congratulations on the book, and come back and join us again when we have a little more time.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be with you.
You too, Madeleine. Good to see you.